because this is like, okay, I'm good. I want to be a loyal soldier. And that's the way it happens.
Well, I think exactly that's the way it happens. And I think, you could, we always talk about two parties, a two-party system. You got the Republicans and the Democrats, as if there's a dividing line between the two. In reality, if you kind of look at it in a continuum, whatever, the Democrats on the left, obviously Republicans on the right, and I don't know where the lines should be drawn, but you need to draw two lines. There's a middle section that's larger generally than the sum of the other two parts, right, on the extremes. Yeah. And I think those are the people, well, obviously, those are the people that control things. I did an analogy once, and not long ago, I think, on this show as well, but we were talking about lawyers. And I think what you're describing in the bars and, the power centers in D.C. is not unlike, when I would, as a financial planner, I would have a couple with a lot of money, and they were going to get divorced. And then the attorneys, the respective attorneys, would call me, every other 15 minutes, asking if, this spouse or that spouse took any money out of the account, before they had time to, to switch ownership around and stuff like that. And when you would hear that attorney just by himself speaking, he was like John Boehner at a podium puffing out his chest. Then you hear the other guy, he'd be the same way. But when I would do a conference call, and usually I would to help kind of settle distribution of assets and stuff, those guys would be pals. Half the time they'd be making fun of whichever spouse they were representing. I don't think it's a lot unlike that in the situations that we're talking about here.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's funny, as I spend a little bit of time arguing against there's no difference between the two parties meme. The idea, you hear that, Republican, Democrat, they are the same thing, just different spellings. And I argue against that. I'm like, no. Republicans are the party of conservative ideals, limited government, free markets, blah, 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 individual responsibility. And the Democrats are and I make a distinction. But I look at what happened here, and I think more and more and more, the only important distinction is conservative versus not.
Well, see, and that's exactly how I was not correct you, but what I was going to say is what you just said. Rather than listen, I used to argue the same thing, but as we've been talking here for a few minutes, that argument is, I'll still make it, because historically that's been the case. But what you just said is spot on. There is a lot of difference between conservatives and liberals, and it's ideological. It's down the line. But man, well, as we said, the line has become so blurred in the middle. It's really three separate groups of people now. You got left wing, you got right wing, and you got everybody in the middle who controls the power.
Right. And it turns out that one of the points of demarcation between liberal and conservative is not party affiliation.
Oh, exactly.
That's it. I mean, it used to be that was a point of demarcation where you could evaluate and judge, I have a clue, based upon party affiliation. Unfortunately, that is totally and completely not the case.
There are a handful of Democrats who are more conservative than a handful of Republicans, and vice versa in Congress as we speak. It's just, it's, man.
Yeah. The other thing it does, Mike, and this comes to my mind, is all through the fall, listening to one of my very favorite commentators, Ann Coulter, rail against guys like Mark Levin, saying, no, we need a majority, we need to win. We need to have, we need to do what we can to have a majority so that then we can make a positive influence, et cetera. Whereas Levin is like, no, we need to fight principle by principle from the very bottom on up. So Coulter ended up getting what she wanted in this last election. Now, we don't have that majority power voting right now, but it's clear that it takes more than just a Republican Party control of a body for conservative principles to win.
Exactly. Hey, Ed, far be it for me to drop names like someone else who shall go nameless. But when When we were at CPAC, Emily and I were invited to a small gathering, and it was Ann Coulter and Phyllis Schlafly, if I said her last name properly.
Yeah, Schlafly.
I know, but if you look at the spelling, you want to make it more complicated. The only thing better than listening to Coulter on the Sean Hannity show is listening to her when she knows it's not on television. You think she gets after it on TV or the radio? I love Ann Coulter.
Totally. I think she's brilliant and hilarious and insightful. And on this issue of all we need are Republicans in power and everything will be better, on that particular issue, she is dead wrong. Hate to say it, man, but it was just proven.
I think
it was just proven yesterday.
Well, again, yeah. You don't want one party in power of anything, because if it's not bad at the beginning, it soon will be. So no, I agree. And oh my gosh, I mean, certainly when the new Congress comes into being in January, if Boehner tries to behave the way that he has behaved, the way that he just behaved yesterday, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. To the Republican Party. I mean,
and what's going to happen is that they're going to be an ineffective minority. Americans are going to say, "Okay, you just gave
majority.
Exactly. You just gave us a bunch of lip service. You had the opportunity and you screwed up. Why in the hell would we give you the presidency? We're going to pay even less attention to what's going on. We're going to be less engaged. And the one thing that's going to happen is when your pie hole opens up and noises start to come out, we're going to change the frickin' channel."
Like I said, yesterday, I don't know if Obama has pictures of Boehner in drag or, some video or audio clip that he's threatened to release. But he really is Barack Obama's bitch. I mean, I don't, I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but I don't know I got nothing. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. So it's incredibly angering. And, we should spend the next hour talking about like movies or radio or television then.
Until our blood pressure comes down?
Something.
Hey, listen, I mean, speaking of politics, what do we got? Well, yeah, I have another bold prediction. You talked about 2016, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you know my previous bold, or you might call it stupid, but my previous prediction about 2016, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hillary will not be the candidate.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to predict. Well, let's do it this way. Multiple choice. Or I can just tell you who I think will end up being the Republican nominee in 2016.
Well, I did see a story on this thing, man, and I think I know where you're going, and I think you might be right.
Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Is that where you thought I was going?
Yeah, I did.
Now, first of all, you said you think I might be right, and then when we said the name, so I like that because that kind of encompassed what we both think.
Exactly.
I didn't say I want him to be the nominee,
right?
Because we could be headed for a do-over, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, you know what? Beheading is the exact phrase, because when the guillotine, yes, because when the guillotine begins to drop, you know where it's going, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're happy with the end result. That's exactly
okay. Well, that is a good. I mean, probably not a time, in light of what's going on in the world right now. No, I'm not.
That's true. That's a tad insensitive.
just a smidge.
Yes, that's a very
as Obama would say, just a smidgen. I just think it's starting to look like that. And listen, this guy's gone for it twice, maybe. And he's sharp as hell. I think he has the credentials relative to, the governorship and running a business, all that kind of stuff, setting politics aside.
Yeah.
But you look at every poll with, an interesting exception, by the way, day before yesterday, Of course, from Florida, but the only Republican polling in Florida to beat Hillary is Jeb Bush, and you and I don't even want to go anywhere near that. But I just think Mitt is starting to soften up, and I think, when the donors and supporters come calling, and Mitt, we need you, blah, 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 the country needs you, I don't think he's going to say no, and I think he would win the nomination. Listen, given that a week in politics is 10 years. I mean, I'm just saying, as we sit here today, just looking at the tea leaves.
Yeah, you know what? I probably cannot argue with you against that. I think you might be right. Now, another thing, I don't know if you saw this on Mediaite. 300 former Obama staffers sign a letter urging a particular person to run for the 2016 nomination. Hiawatha, baby. Yeah, that's the other thing I think is going to maybe happen. I mean, I know that you don't think Hillary's going to be the one. I can't imagine the Democrat Party are going to put up Joe Biden.
I mean, if I had one wish for the rest of my life, that might be it. But no, listen, I've been talking about that for a long time too, dude. Elizabeth Warren.
One of the things, I mean, if you go back, look at Barack Obama, look at William Jefferson Blythe Clinton, look at James Carter. These are guys that were not well known on the national stage, that kind of came out of nowhere, and the particular positioning of the candidate was able to be done because there wasn't a lot of knowledge about them.
We talked about that with Schlichter when he was on the show.
Exactly. Whereas with Hillary Clinton has been part of the national conversation since 1992. Elizabeth Warren, the vast majority of Americans have no idea who this woman is.
And the left just loves her. I mean, the far left. And the far left wishes Hillary Clinton would just catch on fire and be no more.
Yeah. So, you know what? As much as I still would cling to my assertion that Hillary is going to be the candidate, I can so and completely see that Pocahontas would be the second most likely one.
Well, because this far out from the 2008 election, right? Hillary Clinton was preordained. I mean, they might as well have gotten it done away with the primary. I mean, Hillary was to march to the throne unopposed. And then if someone would have said, yeah, but there's this dude, this Barack Obama guy, and he's new senator, I think he's going to take it away from her. People would have thought whoever predicted that was crazy.
Oh, absolutely insane. No one would have given that one half of a second thought. And I know that's your go-to argument every time this subject comes up.
Right.
And I tend to dismiss it. And I still do dismiss it, but it carries a tremendous amount of weight, Mike.
God,
can you imagine if it's Liz Warren and Mitt Romney running against one another?
That'd be great. And listen, I know you dismiss it, but Democrats need to run farther to the left in their primaries than Republicans do to the right. Or if that were not true, we would have never nominated John McCain. But Elizabeth Warren, if she does run, she says she won't, but if she does run, will tear up the Democrat primaries.
Wow.
I'm just saying, man. All right, brother. Well, no, we got about a minute. So I don't know. It's just fun, along the way. I mean, we've got a couple of years here, but just to talk about it, and it's fascinating to watch because they're all lying, they're all running. All right, take us out, man.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Now, next up, right after the break, we have got Politichic's head writer, friend of mine, wonderful guest, Anne-Marie Morell is going to be on. You're definitely going to want to hear that. You have been listening to The Right Mics with Miller and Hausum.
This is Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for December 12th. A Pew Research poll indicates more Americans are supporting gun rights than ever before. For the first time in 2 decades, a majority of Americans, 52%, say it is important to protect the rights of gun owners. This marked a significant swing from January of 2013, when only 45% of poll respondents said protecting gun owner rights was important.